Motor vehicle pedestrian fatal crash that occurred last night here in New Britain. We really want to say thank you to the media and thank you to the public for reaching out to us with tips. Witnesses stepped forward. We're able to identify the driver of the vehicle that was involved in the crash. He's a 17-year-old male New Britain resident. We identified him through those tips, through our investigative leads. We located him in his home this morning. He was hiding in his closet when we apprehended him. He was charged with assault first degree. He was charged with reckless driving. And the case remains open. We're still trying to identify and locate the second occupant of the vehicle. The offender that we arrested today, the 17-year-old male New Britain resident, is a repeat juvenile offender. His charges, I'm gonna wait so that. Over the past 3.5 years, he's been arrested 13 times. For the charges over the course of 3.5 years included larceny, larceny of motor vehicles, robbery, assault with a knife, interfering with police. This is just an example of how the juvenile justice system is not working for us. This is a tragic, senseless act that occurred. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to the family of the deceased, and we're hoping that this arrest brings just a tiny little bit of closure for them in this investigation.
Chief, could there be additional charges here? I noticed there's not any vehicular manslaughter or anything like that. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, the charges, we worked with the state's attorney's office on which charges would be appropriate based on the circumstances as well as his age. So at this stage of the game, that's where the charges are. It is a possibility those charges could be modified later, but those charges were based on the recommendations of the state's attorney's office.
Do you imagine he will be cooperative given that you know him?
When we spoke to him today, he was cooperative after we found him hiding in the closet, and we're hoping the information that we're getting is going to help further this investigation along.
Including telling you who the passenger was in the vehicle?
Correct. We have several leads on who that passenger is, and we're continuing the investigation now.
You had said this morning that this was also started with an incident in Plainville.
Correct.
Where somebody believed that they had stolen property from the vehicle. Were you able to get to the bottom of that and figure out if they were in fact the same suspects?
They were the same suspects in the larceny that occurred at the Mobil gas station on Main Street in Plainville this morning. We are now, once we're taking this investigation in stages, we're now going to look into the actual larceny that occurred there. We're Plainville PD's investigating that part. We're also looking at what crimes occurred in New Britain as relation to that larceny complaint.
Are you going to be identifying the name of the jogger, the victim?
Yes, right now we're just, due to the family and giving the family ample notice to contact their family and make those notifications, we will be releasing his identity.
And was that the jogger, they lived in the area?
Correct. New Britain resident, yep.
And so we were hearing, we were on the scene late last night, and we were hearing from people that that street, that strip of road is really dangerous, that there's a lot of speeding, a lot of reckless driving. Can you kind of talk to that area at all?
Yep, so East Street, Belden Street is in the east side of the city, and we typically do have some speeding complaints over there. We do target that area to try to reduce distracted driving, speeding complaints, and so forth, but it is an area of concern. It is not a location where we see a high frequency of crashes, but it is definitely a source of complaints that we receive.
Chief, on the surveillance video, it appeared that one of the suspects, it may have been the one you arrested, I don't know, it appeared he had an ankle bracelet, a GPS monitor bracelet. Was that the suspect you arrested, and was it a GPS monitor bracelet? Was he out on parole or any circumstances like that you can elaborate on?
At this time, I can't elaborate on those specific questions that you just asked me, but as time goes on, we might be able to go back to that.
These individuals, do you believe, you said something earlier, I just wanted to clarify. You believe these two individuals were also responsible using this white Audi for other larcenies in the area?
That is correct. So that car was seen in the area of larcenies in neighboring towns, and we had that information ahead of time, and we just followed up on that and actually helped us in identifying who the occupants were.
So you do know who the passenger is at this point, it's just a matter of locating them?
Well, we're still investigating it, so we're still in that process, so.
Thank
charged him with first-degree larceny by possession.
Correct.
Is there a possibility that someone else stole the vehicle and then they got possession of it, or do you believe that these two people stole the vehicle?
So the crime occurred in Hartford, so we can't charge them with larceny in Hartford unless Hartford had an arrest warrant for them. The crime of larceny by possession happened in New Britain, so we were able to charge them with that charge.
And a lot of, we're hearing from a lot of police departments lately, we kind of touched upon it, especially stolen cars, especially the juveniles. What's the conversation like amongst you, other chiefs, other police departments, police association? Is there a push for change right now more than ever?
Absolutely. That's definitely the center of conversation all the time. The juvenile justice system is now working. The fact that this offender was out and basically was arrested 13 times in the last 3.5 years with literally no kind of consequence, this just emboldens these offenders, and they continue to repeat offend. And this is a prime example of it. The juvenile justice system did not help this offender at all rehabilitate because no consequences occurred. And it definitely didn't help to the public because we have a true innocent victim that was killed last night. That this should never have happened.
What kind of changes do you want to see? Different penalties, or what do you?
We'd like to see any kind of consequence. I mean, there's so many different theories of how to address the root causes, how to address recidivism, rehabilitation. All of those should work together inclusively. One should not be exclusive of the other, but we definitely need to see some type of consequence occur to these juveniles. We're seeing over and over again, we're arresting the same individuals for the same charges, and we're just seeing them come right back on the streets again, committing the same crimes again.
Can you just repeat that? I think the microphone might have gotten in the way. Can you just repeat what you just said about?
So the repeat offenders in the state of Connecticut, we're seeing this over and over again. We're arresting the same juvenile offenders. Now, be mindful, this is a very small population of juveniles, of teens, middle, high school age teenagers, young adults that are committing these crimes. It's a very small population, but it's the same ones. It's the same ones over and over and over and over again. And we just need some type of consequence. Something has to set the message to these repeat offenders that you're going to have a consequence to your actions. When there is no consequences, it just emboldens them. They laugh at us. They know that nothing's going to be done, and they're out there again, and we're just rearresting them.
And this is like the worst consequence of all, that someone lost their life because of this.
Correct. This juvenile justice system failed that offender because if it worked properly, that offender should have been rehabilitated, recidivism should have been reduced, and he should have been put on a straight and narrow path to a path of success. That didn't happen. It also failed the public because we have an innocent bystander that was killed last night.
In the chase that led to the crash, I'm assuming the person thought maybe they'd be helping police by letting them know where this person was or this vehicle was. What would you say to viewers about chasing someone who they think wronged them?
So here's the problem. We're seeing these crimes occur over and over again, and people are getting frustrated, just like the people in the law enforcement systems. So they're taking these matters into their own hands, and we can't let this happen. They're frustrated because they know nothing's going to happen to these offenders. So what this gentleman did, and we're still investigating it, is he tried to apprehend the person who stole his wallet out of his car. We don't want that. We do not want anybody going out taking those matters into their own hands. That's not the way things should be done. But I think that's the frustration level we're seeing from the public. We go to these community meetings. I receive phone calls all the time, constantly, of what are you doing about these stolen cars? What do you do about these car break-ins? What are you doing? We're doing our part. We're investigating and we're identifying these individuals, but then there's nothing in the law that actually stops it. There's no second part to this, and we need change.
Is there a possible crime there as well? That person, you said you're investigating that part of it too?
That's correct. We're investigating to see if any crimes did occur that he committed, and we're going to start shifting our investigation to that stage.
Obviously, you can't speak to it yet, but criminal, motor vehicle, what kinds of charges could there be?
Yeah, it could be both. Yeah, so we're going to see how that goes.
Anything else, Chief?
No, I think